Welcome to The Unhinged.
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 The Unhinged Potty.
Welcome to the Unhinged Potty. This is your host, Rassi. We continue our discussion with my friend Stefani. Hi, Stefani. Stefani is a family lawyer here in Melbourne. Her business is called Hestia Law, and you should check her out for any of your family law, wills and estates, and conveyancing needs. Welcome to part 2 of the discussion on pregnancy and childbirth. If you haven't listened to it already, please go back and listen to part 1 on the same topic.
So now that we have covered the medical aspects, we'll slightly take it further to what happens once you do get pregnant, once you do start to have needs, once you carry the baby to full term and the baby also starts to have needs, you have even further things to worry about and take care of. What it takes to actually deal with all this? What would that be, Steph?
Money, cash money. So what I wanted to talk about on the podcast was my lived experience with a former partner talking about preparing to have children. So Rassi and I are both single ladies now. There's a reason for that. We will talk about that at another stage. But with a former partner, I wanted to contemplate having children, but due to my upbringing, I really wanted to make sure that any child that I would consider having was going to be very financially secure, but I also wanted to make sure that I was going to be in a good financial position, as well as my partner, so that we would be in the best possible situation to be really good parents, really good partners to each other, good friends, good family members to everyone around us. That was really important for me. So I had a discussion with my partner, then partner, and said, look, I think we need to start saving and saving pretty aggressively. And I had a list of things that I wanted there to be money available for, to be saved, to be ready. And I am going to detail this list.
Ooh, let's discuss the list.
The list, yes, so the list. So we go from practical to
A little bit indulgent-ish.
There are, I would say that they're tailor-made for me, but everyone will have their own
Even
things
better.
on their list. So
As they should.
yes, so for me, the basics were I really wanted to have at least first or second trimester the baby room completely sorted. So I wanted I wanted the change tables, I wanted the different car seats, I wanted baby room set up, I wanted all the stuff for baths, I wanted all the sterilizers, all the wraps, all the clothes, everything. Like I was a nanny for 7 years. I've looked after babies through to adults. I understand intimately all of the things that one needs for a newborn. So I wanted that completely to be set up well in advance, because who knows what's going to happen in terms of your medical complications when you actually do get pregnant.
Yeah.
So you want to get that sorted, ideally beforehand, before you're kind of even pregnant or in anticipation of being pregnant. The other thing is medical insurance. So ordinarily in Australia, depending on who your insurer is, you have to hold private health insurance for a period of 12 months. Prior to being eligible to have private healthcare for labour, for anything to do with having a baby. So you need to have the money to be able to have the private healthcare at least for 12 months prior. On top of that, they're the two like basics. Well, one, you'd actually hope that you have a proper car as well. That was a conversation I was having with my then partner, because he had a piece of shit drug dealer car that was like made in 1994 and didn't have proper airbags, I don't think. It was fucking foul. Not childproof, not safe, also just not practical.
Probably not human-proof either.
No, not human-proof. Two-door. I mean, how are you supposed to get a kid in and out of that thing? Just not practical whatsoever. So also having an appropriate vehicle where you can put the kid in the car and, reverse cameras and being able to drive and being able to get enough stuff in your car when you go out and get all the things. That's so important as well. So that was another part of my conversation. Some people are going to come to this and say, that is a really fucking privileged viewpoint that you're putting forward. Like, that's a significant amount of money that a lot of people can't afford. No. But what I will say is have a financial plan that is commensurate to your circumstances. Put something in place. So many people do not do any planning, no savings. I'm not saying you need a Gucci stroller. You can have a secondhand stroller. You can have secondhand things. That's fine.
Have a plan.
have a plan. Start putting some things in place. Start putting money away where you can for certain things, where you can save in other ways. Do that. That is okay, but have some sort of financial plan in place. It doesn't have to be 50, 100K, 200K before you have the kid, but you've got to have some savings. There is no doubt that you must do that.
That also brings in that conversation about eugenics, because many people have cried that this is eugenics. What do you mean? Poor people are not supposed to have babies? What, you're depriving them of their human rights? That's a whole different set of argument, and we're not going to go into it. We're not going to be baited into arguing about it or against it, because I think from our points, it's pretty clear what our stand is. It is not an emotional decision, first of all. Having a child is not an emotional decision to be made. It's not made from the heart. It has to be made from the brain. You decided to bring the child into this world. So if you're going to struggle and then let your child struggle, that's abuse. I'm sorry, that's abuse. If you couldn't even survive yourself happily, why the hell did you decide to bring me into this world and make me suffer with you?
Then we get to things such as I wanted to have a certain amount of money so that when the child came, I would be able to engage in the things that I engage with now. Things like going and getting coffee with friends, things like going to the gym, going to Pilates, being able to be the person that I am, and for motherhood to not completely take those things away from me. Because I think it's so important for women to still have hobbies and do things that they love, because their life shouldn't just then transform into, you know, you're a mum for sure. And that's really important. And you know, it's really taxing and there is a huge responsibility change and shift in your life, but you should still have the ability to go out and have the freedom to go and do the things. So a lot of women have C-sections. Not everyone's able to have a natural birth delivery, and women that have C-sections cannot drive for a period after they've had a C-section. So for me, I would want there to be enough money so I can get in an Uber, and if I want to go and have a, you know, postnatal massage, I can do that. I also want to have enough money that a cleaner comes on a regular basis. And when I say regular, I'm not saying some live-in nanny and cleaner situation. I'm saying, you know, having someone come maybe once a fortnight just to do some basic things, just to take the pressure off a little bit, and so you don't feel like you're in house prison. Having enough money to get a lunch every now and then with your girlfriends, being able to have a coffee, maybe being able to go out for a little date night with your partner, because you still should be able to do all the things that you did with your friends and your partner before you had a kid. And you need to have enough money in the kitty as well to have a babysitter if you don't have friends and family around to support you. Getting more extreme, what about all of the complications that can come after having a kid? Maybe you've got extra medical needs. You know, maybe you've got physio, rehabilitation, psychological needs. You need to go and get therapy. All of this costs money. Then the last piece for me, is what happens to your body, and is there anything that you potentially want or need to get done with your body? You know, I'm not going to lie, like I like a sprinkling of Botox, have for a long time. Would I want to go and get another sprinkling having a kid? Abso-fucking-lutely I would. You know, I know some women who say that after they're done having all their kids, they're going to have a tit lift. Yeah. So they should. If they have you know, birthed those children and you've been using your udders,
they're going to be sagging. It's natural.
If you want to go and
get
have a little lift, you should have the money and the ability to go and be able to do that. So for me, you want to have a little bit extra in the kitty for anything that becomes complex in terms of health needs. Or if you just want something that's going to make you feel a little bit better, I think that that's really important too. So that's kind of where I sit with the whole having a baby pregnancy thing in terms of finances. And so now I kind of say, well, you need to be thinking about having to at least 50 to 100K saved up so you can achieve that.
Minimum. And adding to the last part that you just mentioned about getting a refresh and getting some plastic type of work done.
Plastic, fantastic.
Plastic.
It's
fantastic
a little bit of a, you know, an enhancement, just a little bit.
My experience with that was at the hospital where Bollywood stars used to have babies. I had the chance of looking at their operating register, and almost every delivery was a C-section combined with a lipo. Combined with a lipo. And make no mistakes, it's not safe. It's not the safest. However, these are privileged people. They come with a certain level of fitness where their bodies can take it. But almost every other procedure I was reading up was a lipo with C-section, or a breast lift with C-section, or some sort of combination, because once you're under, you can just get all of it done. It's taxing on the body. However, they're privileged enough to have enough help around them to be able to recover from such an extreme surgery. So even if it sounds frivolous to you as a listener, a lot of the other women would relate that they would give anything to go back to the pre-pregnancy body. And this is just a little bit of help. Much needed help. And if you can afford it, why the fuck not? You would do it. I would do it. If I was the type to have a child, I would definitely think of getting a tummy tuck and a nip lift or something like that. It affects your confidence. My whole decision to not want any kids started with physical discomfort. I don't do discomfort whatsoever. I can barely manage to go through periods. I hate every second of it. And childbirth and pregnancy, I saw with my own eyes what it does to women when I was in med school. I saw my first childbirth and lost my shit, because that was beyond traumatizing. It's burnt in my brain. That memory is burnt in my brain, and it's never pleasant. I've conducted deliveries. I've conducted all sorts of deliveries. None of them are pleasant. The woman is a superhero to come out smiling at the end, hold the baby and forget all of it, but she doesn't really forget any of it. She can't. This is another myth that is passed on to women. No, you don't forget jack shit. And on those lines, I did tell one of my other medical friends when I was in business school, I told him that I would choose a C-section. At that time, I was still contemplating having kids, but my first decision was to never go through normal vaginal delivery, because that shit is beyond scary. I will not be stuck in labor. I will not be stuck with all of that drama down there. It was not appealing to me. Respectful. A lot of women in India still choose elective C-sections. So you get to choose a date, a time, and you get your delivery done. Everything is done. Everything is in controlled environment. It's perfect. And it goes smoothly for most part. There's complications with C-section as well. There's a whole bunch of literature around it. We won't get into that right now. But to me, at that time, it seemed like a much easier choice because I felt like I was in control. And this jackass heard it, and his first argument was, how dare you choose this out of sheer vanity when your body's designed to just do normal vaginal deliveries?
Who's this person?
He was a doctor.
Oh,
Yeah.
male doctor.
Yeah. But their whole idea is that women should be not only wanting to deliver children, women should be wanting to go through that pain. Like, why aren't you glorifying that pain? Why aren't you wanting that pain? How dare you call it a discomfort? How dare you call it an inconvenience? I'm sorry, it is a fucking inconvenience.
That's okay. You get pregnant and have the baby then.
Exactly. Why
You
don't
push
you
it out,
go-
mate.
Exactly. Like, why don't you get all of that done? And it's my body. If I find something inconvenient and uncomfortable, only I get to decide that. What's uncomfortable to me might not be to you, and more power to you for that. But to me, that's my line. I don't want that. I don't want the pain. How is that not understandable is beyond me. There's no glory in wanting it to do the hard way. And again, I'm not saying one method is better than the other. There's no better. None of it was designed to be a pleasant experience. No matter what method you choose, it's going to be shitty. So yay, that's the silver lining. And because we're talking about money, having money will buy you time and energy to be a good mother to your child too. It's not easy to go through all of that hormonal storm that's happening. Postnatal depression is no joke. If you've ever had any depression because of your period or your PMS, this is just like that, but on steroids. And a lot of the times, no amount of counseling or even drugs will help. So all of that needs space to actually get out of your body and get out of your brain. And all of the space can only be bought with money and help. So women not being taught to prioritize their finances before they go through all of it is another lie that patriarchy tells you. You need to be able to afford a decent meal. You need to be able to afford to go to shower because somebody else needs to be able to take care of your kid if you don't have family and friends around you. How much will you rely on them anyway? You need to be able to afford some meal service every now and then, a cleaner, like you said, every now and then. Uber's everywhere because time is money as well. So you need to be able to buy time and a little bit of convenience. Did you, by the way, know that the pelvic floor could get really, really weak? So that every time you laugh, a little bit of pee could come out? Like it needs...
After pregnancy, after birth.
Yeah, after birth. It could actually get weak. It doesn't happen often, but there's some reminiscing trauma which women just make their peace with and carry on because they're like, yeah, this is the price you pay because I really, really wanted the kid. And they'll just suck it up and do it because that's the kind of creatures women are. They literally just accept the price and go forward and don't mention it. Don't whine about it because nobody's going to want to hear it. It's unpleasant. It's impolite. But that's the kind of shit you're looking at. So in all of that, if she's asking for money, she's more than in the right to do so. That's the bare fucking minimum that a partner should be able to provide. She's going through something that you will never ever understand and never ever have to go through. That's why the default mode that men come with is, yes, I want kids, because you don't have to do jack shit. So in the least, have the money ready to have a child.
I think what's really frustrating too is just there is this expectation in society that women will just have the child and do all the things. And then once they have the kid, they will do all the things. And it's completely self-deprecating. It's completely self-deprecating. And the woman is not encouraged to look after herself or put herself first or do things for her. She's actively encouraged to sacrifice to the nth degree for her partner and for this child. And it gets some of the stories you hear online too, not just about women going through pregnancy in terms of their child, but also in terms of their partner. Some of the most disgusting and vile stories you hear about men complaining about not being, not getting as much sex as they did previously and, wanting to have sex when women are, really close to term and whining that the woman doesn't have libido. So what, a man can be entitled to a woman's body, but a woman can't be entitled to an Uber and a cleaner? Like, you've got to be fucking kidding me.
I have had one of my best friends during her pregnancy being pressured into having sex because, to quote his exact words, how are my needs supposed to be met? You're pregnant and everything, but where am I supposed to go? And she used to throw him one, by the way, because she was scared and guilted into doing so. And how awful is that? And of course, we've all heard about the husband stitch because the men complain that it gets looser. The vagina gets looser, which is dumb, by the way, super dumb. And they think throwing in an extra stitch is the solution to making it tighter. And if people are not still aware, sometimes you need to have a cut down there to make the opening slightly larger. It's called an episiotomy. And stitching that back up is required. And a lot of times the stitching back up itself is not the easiest. It may or may not heal well. And that itself can cause complications. Again, it sounds simple, but it's not a piece of fabric. It needs to be done correctly. And in a lot of places, that's not taken as seriously either. Depending on how privileged a member of the society you are, your entire childbirth experience itself is going to be very, very different. And you're not educated in the details of what it includes to have the pregnancy going through term and to actually deliver a child. And men are even less aware. Again, if women themselves don't have this much knowledge, imagine how even less men would know about it.
A lot of men don't understand what a period is. So
they don't even understand period. They don't know what episiotomy is. They don't know what stitching down there would feel like. They just think it's normal. It's a piece of fabric. Just throw in one more extra stitch.
Maybe that's what we should be doing too, just asking questions on the street, like how long are women pregnant for?
Yeah. I'm sure they all are going to say 9 months.
No,
guys.
I don't think they will. They'll be like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Oh my God, it would be hilarious.
Maybe we should go and do a vox pop on that. We'll ask people.
We should.
Maybe we should go and do a vox pop. Men, perhaps we need to go somewhere where there's a lot of men. Richmond after a football game or something like that.
Or chapel,
and asking all the questions to the guys about, well, what do you know about pregnancy? How much would you pay to have a baby? What are you prepared to save?
If a woman came and asked you, if you were ready financially to have X amount of money set aside because she needs this, this, and that, how would you feel about it? Would you be open to that conversation, or would you straight up call her a gold digger? It would be, let's go and ruin their sunny Sunday brunch. What do you think? What do you think? Tell us in the comments, tell us in the DMs what you would like us to ask, because we will go down the streets looking fire and asking them these very difficult questions and see what they come up with.
Should be fun.
Oh, fun for us. Maybe not as fun for the men. Taking it back to the medical aspects, and the other less fun part of pregnancy and childbirth is termination of pregnancy. And I know there has been a lot of discourse for the last few years worldwide. And we are fortunate in a country like Australia that we have women's rights quite well protected when it comes to being allowed to terminate pregnancy in a safe way. Almost all the states, I believe all the states actually, have medical termination of pregnancy rights, and they're reasonable, and the access is really good for most women. However, I would like to remind everybody that it's never an easy decision. Even though I have decided not to ever have children, if I were to get pregnant by accident tomorrow, I know that I would want to terminate without a doubt, but it would be the hardest decision I would ever have to make in my life. And I know that right away. Imagine being in that situation and going through that hormonal storm again and having to make that decision. So it's not something that women choose lightly. It's not like deciding to go get candy. It is one of the hardest decisions women ever make, even if they never wanted children. Then imagine having to do it because you assess the situation and assess what kind of finance and social situation you are in, and if you're capable or not, and then making that informed, much needed call. And I do know women who have had to make that terrible, terrible call. And
Yes, I know, because I'm one of them. And this is something that we wanted to talk about, I guess. I wanted to talk about it from the perspective of you needing to have really robust conversations with your partner and having a really excellent partner, because I've gone through the termination journey with a really shit partner when I was a lot younger. So I'll talk about it a bit, but this is why I want women to hopefully get something out of this conversation, and hopefully men too, if they do tune in, that you need to be having robust conversations about what you're going to go through, money, the emotional side of things, because I don't want any other women going through what I went through when I went through this experience. So when I was about 21, I fell pregnant and I found out at 6 weeks. I went to the hospital for other side effects. I was having side effects and felt quite ill and had to go to the emergency department in Monash, Clayton, where I was working and living as a student at Monash, and went to the hospital, found out I was pregnant in the emergency room. My partner was there at the time, and he was in med school, so he's a doctor now, and he came back in and I kind of told him, and the first thing he said to me was, shit. Yeah. So that was great. That was just, divine, not. Anyway, found out at 6 weeks, went home. I was really distraught, really torn. I didn't know what to do in that situation. I sat with that decision until about 13 weeks. I really struggled during that time. I researched around, money and, Centrelink payments for mothers, and looked at my financial situation, budgeted, went on Woolworths online trying to figure out how much it costs to have diapers and formula and all the things, and how
21.
Trying to figure out whether I could financially make it work. I could put off studies. I had to I looked into Monash and seeing whether I could defer and, make that work. And it was just, at the end of the day, my viewpoint was, I just don't think financially I can make it work at this time, as devastating as that was to me, because, some women, I think everyone has a different experience with termination. For some people, I think it's very straightforward and it's just, I go and get it done, that's that. Whereas for me, that wasn't my lived experience. And I think everyone's experience is valid. So I don't have any judgment or ill feeling towards anyone that goes in, gets it done and they're good, but that's not every woman's experience, and it certainly wasn't mine. So going and terminating that pregnancy, ultimately I was actually put into a youth section of Monash Health with a lot of other young women who were teens, because I guess I was 21, I was still youngish, so they put me into that system. And I was put in for the day out in Dandenong and was put under anaesthetic. intense, and when I came out of the anaesthetic after the procedure was done, I was quite hysterical and I was really upset, and the nurse there at the time said to me, you need to be quiet. You're an adult, like saying to me, you're older than everyone else here, like be quiet.
Don't scare the other ones. Don't make a scene. Don't be
Grow
hysterical.
up. Grow up, I think, were the words that she used. Grow up. You're an adult, as compared to maybe, the 12-year-old pluses who were in there.
Insensitive.
So insensitive, and coming from another woman, it was just a complete moment of internalized misogyny and lacking of any kind of emotional intelligence. Absolutely devastating, that coming out of the medical system from one woman to another. Terrible. The other thing that I need to mention as well is that when I was making this decision around whether I was going to keep the pregnancy or not, I had to have check-ins with the gynecologist and I had to have scans. Now, my partner, he was not a good partner. He missed my first scan at the hospital and told me that he missed it because he overslept.
Imagine somebody who's in the medical system saying these things and doing these things as a male.
As someone who's training to be a doctor.
Who's supposed to know better, who definitely has the knowledge theoretically. If this is their internalization of all of that knowledge, then imagine what the others are doing, who are not even in the field. They know and act even worse. This is awful, and it takes a lot of strength to go through it and then be willing to share it with everybody and on such a huge scale. So thank you for sharing that, because women need to hear that. Young women will be grateful to hear this from you. And I know there must be quite a few young women out there right now in that exact same situation, and know that you're normal. You're normal and brave to want to take that decision to terminate your pregnancies, because it's an informed choice that will affect you and your tentative baby's future.
But this is why, like, if you're considering having a child, you need to make sure you have a good partner, that you've got a great partnership, great communication with, because I didn't. And that was a part, and that was a factor in that decision, notwithstanding the financial burden. But, he wasn't there for my first ultrasound. He was there when I, went through the procedure and terminated. He kind of had to be, because I couldn't drive myself home after being under anaesthetic. But then in the aftermath as well, I was so traumatized by the whole thing. Like, I had a name picked out. I had ideas in my mind that I actually wanted to keep this child, but knew that I couldn't do it. And then in the aftermath, I wanted to do something that was going to actually signify that child and do some sort of ritual, lighting a candle once a month on the day that it happened. And his response to that was, when are you going to get over this? And this is why women need to pick their partners carefully, because you don't need some jackass getting you pregnant, you going to full term, and you then having a kid and being spoken to like that. I'm lucky that I didn't go to full term. And I didn't have to deal with that kind of bullshit behaviour. And that's why I want to have this conversation around money, around conversations around what are you going to go through if you decide to go through it. I had morning sickness. I went from having morning sickness at 11, 12 weeks and then terminating and then not having morning sickness anymore. It is a really huge undertaking, and I didn't go through with it in the end, but I cannot stress enough, having a strong partnership with someone who respects and cares about you, that is going to be there in the trenches with you when you're considering bringing life into this world.
We need to stop selling children as a blessing by default. A child is not a blessing by default. It is a responsibility and a huge burden on your finances, your body, and your lifestyle in the first place. And I'm sorry if any of your feelings are hurt by calling it a burden, but all objectivity will point to it as being a huge, huge load on you, a woman. Men might understand this. Good men would understand this. But jackass partners, like Steph mentioned, are quite a few. And if you think making the decision to terminate is hard, it's going to be even harder if you're going to be stuck with a bad partner, never being able to kick them out of your life because you're connected because of a child. And I do know of mothers who started hating their kids because the kid was the reason they couldn't get this jackass out of their lives. Literally. And they feel awful for feeling this way too. So it's horrible. Imagine going through that. Be very, very careful of your rights, of your choices, and of the impacts that your choices are going to have on your own mental health and on your own sanity and your own finances. Prioritize money. Women get more out of money than men ever will. For women, it buys security, safety, sanity, health, time, happiness, everything. Prioritize that even more so when you think about bringing a child into this world. It's not a blessing by default. Again, we'll keep repeating this till it gets through. It's not a blessing, it's a responsibility. It's the biggest responsibility you'll ever undertake. If you want us to nitpick at an even more detailed aspect of childbirth or pregnancy or finances when it comes to women's health regarding these choices, please let us know. DM us, comment, reach out to us, and we will try and do our research and cover more about this. It took a lot of mental strength to actually share all of these things, and we have even more to share about this topic, but we're going to pace ourselves because I think we already may have hurt quite a few feelings, made a few people way too angry already. So what? But we will take forward the ideas that you guys present, and we'll see you next time.
Got a topic you want us to cover? Have a burning question you want us to debate? Reach out to us on our socials at The Unhinged Potty. And who knows, your questions just might make it to the mix.
The Unhinged Potty.